are doing a stained glass effect with watercolor. If you know about stained glasses and how it works, what they used to do, the stained glass artists, they used to take small pieces of glass and put them together. It's not the other way around. We think they paint on it and then they create sections and put colors in it, but it was totally different. So it's very interesting how they used to create amazing artworks with the stained glass effect. But today we are going to do the other way around and also with watercolor. Watercolor is really easy when it comes to these sort of effects because it's a transparent medium. It's not that thick, not that opaque. You can layer it up and you can still see the colors beneath it if you apply it correctly. And yeah, it gives you that wonderful look that you would usually see in a stained glass piece of art. So today we have chosen to draw and create a dragonfly with a watercolor effect. I'll show you what I have here to do the activity, and then we will start with the drawing. Okay, I'll just move my camera. All right, so I've got these watercolors, just simple student grade watercolors. I've used them before from the Montmartre. They're a great brand. So I've got that, a palette. Of course, I've got brushes, some water. I usually prefer to take two separate containers of water, one for washing and another one is for diluting if you need water. And then just kitchen towel or any sort of tissue paper, and then just a wise piece of paper like this to do some testing on it, or if you want to get rid of excess water. And on the screen, as you can see, I have also got this A4 sheet of paper. This is a watercolor paper that I've taken, so it's got nice texture in it. And then I've taped it to a piece of board, so it's easy for me to paint on it. And that's it. All right. I'll adjust the camera a little bit more and then we will get started. There you go. I hope everyone can see me. You can unmute yourself at any time if you want me to adjust the camera or the lighting. If you're finding it difficult to hear me, just let me know. All right, let's first get the dragonfly. Everyone can see my sheet. Yeah, I think that looks about right. Okay. So first we're going to draw the dragonfly. You can draw one, you can draw two, three, how many you like. So I'm going to put one big dragonfly here, and then we'll see how we go with the spaces. And I might add a second one on that side as well. All right, so dragonflies are simple to draw, but you just have to get the wings placed correctly so they look realistic and neat. We'll first start with the head. Okay, so one of the dragonflies will be pointing at this end of the sheet, and yeah, and if we have space, we might draw another one pointing at that end of the sheet. Okay, cool. So first we'll do the head. With the head, I'm just drawing a flattened circle. A flattened circle for the head, and then with the eyes, they have big eyes, So just make shape like that. And that's with the eyes. And then we'll draw the thorax, or I think where they're joined with the body. So that part is usually broader and slightly thicker than rest of the body and the tail. Just like so. And then we'll draw the rest of the body and the tail. And as I'm going towards the tip of the tail, I'll make it a little bit narrow. Okay. And then the wings. So I'll start the wings here. I'm making the wings a little bit wobbly, as you can see. They're not very neat straight lines because we're creating a watercolor effect. That's why those are shaky lines. Okay, and we'll draw, usually the dragonflies, they have the veins in the wings. If you've seen before, they have several veins in their wings, right? They're a close mesh of veins, but we are not going to make those veins here. We're going to make the dragonfly in a stained glass way. So we will section it out like this. Imagine you are joining small bits and pieces of glass together. Just like so. I might just add another line here. There is no measurement as to where I'm putting the lines, how many lines I'm putting. I'm just visualizing how it's going to look if I was to put small pieces of glass together. And I'm sectioning its tail and body like this. I'll also section its thorax, just like so. Okay, so that completes one dragonfly. I will add another dragonfly here. Starting with the head as usual. And then the eyes. and making the sections, the wings, just the same way like I've done for the first one. If you want to change the pattern a little bit, you can do that, because you may not have the same pieces of glass. Okay, so I've sectioned out the wings. Doing the tail. Okay, that's pretty much it with the dragonfly. Okay, now I'll make some more sections in the page around the dragonflies. So there is no set rule how you want to do it, but all the sections, they will be straight lines, because you can't break a glass where the edges will not be straight. So imagine I keep saying this, imagine you're putting all the pieces of glass together, and how are the pieces going to look like. So visualize that, how the pieces will be, and based on that, we will create the design. So I'll show you what I mean. So I'll start maybe from here. Make sure you join all the lines, no loose ends. Okay, I just add another piece here, and we can Okay, so that completes the drawing. All right. Now I'll prepare to apply watercolor in it.
Hi, Madhubani. I have a question.
Yes.
You have drawn all the pencil mark pretty prominent.
Yes,
So here we don't want to erase the pencil mark. We want them there showing the joint of the glasses.
that's correct. So we will be using a Sharpie at the end of the drawing to
Okay.
cover the pencil marks.
Okay, no problem. Yeah. And
Yeah,
one more thing, I just wanted to know about
sure.
more about watercolor inks and what's the difference between the paints and inks. So whenever you are explaining, you can please explain about that and difference. That will be great.
To be honest with you, I haven't ever used inks. I have mostly used watercolor.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know how the texture feels like. From what I know, from what I've seen artists doing, they are more, what should I say? The pigment is uh, much more transparent, less paint-like. So watercolor paint is still a paint, and compared to the ink or compared to pigment, it's just if you yeah, it's just if you've seen ink before, any sort of ink, it doesn't have um, any sort of binder to it. It's just very watery. It's extremely watery. So that's the main difference. But and of course, it depends on how you use it. The usage is pretty similar. You of course you don't need water to dilute the ink because it's already in the ink form. But yeah, frankly, I haven't used inks. I really want to do it, probably for another future project. Thanks for reminding me, Raki, but yeah, I haven't used it personally.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Okay, no
Thank you.
problem. All right, let me adjust the camera. There you go. Okay, everyone can see. Cool. All right, so I'll start with um, painting. Now I'll show you the colors that I am going to take. So I will be taking let's see. Okay, so I'm going to experiment with 3 different colors, which is yeah, which will form the outside, the backdrop of the dragonflies, and then we'll use a different set of colors for the dragonflies. So these are the colors that I'm using. That is basically light green. It's not a mint green like the packaging shows. That is yellow. We will use a lot of yellow. Imagine the sunlight coming through the stained glass, how it looks like. So yellow is important. And I'll also use dark green to create some dark patches. Okay, so 3 different colors. Okay. So I'm taking a flat brush to cover most of the surface. And when you are painting with watercolor, and of course, with the effect that we're trying to achieve, make sure you don't have too much paint on your brush. It should be watery. We don't want any sharp lines. We don't want any thick coat of paint. anywhere in the drawing. All right, so I'm going to start with the yellow first. So I'm adding a lot of water to the yellow. So we're going to do a wash everywhere we think necessary. So like I said, we are going to mimic the patches of stained glass that has sun rays coming through, okay? So I'm going to add a bit of yellow there. You'll see here and there, I'm going to add a bit of yellow. You can go over the lines. The lines will be covered at the end of the drawing. So don't worry. If you're going outside the line, that's totally perfect. As you can see, I'm not coloring the sections completely. I'm leaving some bits of white. Okay, let's see. Now I'm going to add some dark green. Now when I'm adding dark green, I'm following these sections. So because it's a deep pigment, I don't want it to cover the lines that I've drawn. I'm going, as you can see, I'm going over the yellow patches that I added. Okay, what I'll do, you see these lines? We don't want that, okay? So I'm going to take a thin brush and smudge it. So if you let your yellow pigment dry a little bit. And then you go over with a light wash of this dark green. It will create a nice yellowy patch in that piece of glass. I'm saying glass just to make it sound realistic. And that's what we want. On the other hand, if you apply the colors straight away, after you have added the yellow paint, it will bleed into it. So it might not give you the exact effect. It won't be that bad. It will still create a nice effect, but not that transparent stained glass effect. So you'll see a difference if you apply the green paint on top of the yellow right after you've added the light color. Now in these areas, as you can see, I'm adding a very light wash of green. Okay, so these areas have dried up. Adding some light green. As you can see, in some areas, I'm just adding a flat wash of color. Okay. Back to dark green. Don't let any watered color accumulate in your sheet. As much as it looks nice in any watercolor painting, we don't want that in this effect that we're trying to create. Okay. Picked up some more color and I'm going to go over this yellow patch. And a little bit of dark green here as well in this patch. Make sure there is a little bit of continuity. You don't want the stained glasses to look very separate from each other. They will look separate. Of course, every piece of glass is different. So that's what I'm trying to create. I'm trying to create a variation with the 3 different shades, but there should still be a flow. When you look at your picture, it should be all mixed up together in a beautiful combination. Okay. So I'm taking the light green and some of the yellow again to finish off this last few pieces. Okay. I'm just adding another wash of color to these patches. All right, now I'll take for the finishing of the stained glass, I'm taking a thin brush and I'll go over some of these narrow areas. So there can be some patches in your sheet which you'll see they're white, so there's no color in it. Take a thin brush and go over those areas and add some color to it. Make sure you spread the color so it's uniform. Okay. I'm just quickly adding another wash here. And that's it. All right. We'll let this dry. And in the meantime, I'll pick up a few color for the dragonfly. So for the dragonfly, I'll show you what colors I have here. So I have picked these three colors. I have lavender. What is it called? It's actually called mauve lavender. So I've got that color. If you don't have that, if you have purple, blue, that's going to work as well. Orange, and then red. Okay. So pick these three colors. Okay, let's get started. This, I'll start with this one because we've just finished this part and it's a little bit wet. And like I said, we don't want any color to bleed into each other. So I'll start with some orange. And I'm coloring the whole wing. Gently push the color if you see any patches. When I say push the color, I mean when you're working with watercolor paint, you might see there is a certain patch which has a little bit of a water patch. I mean, sometimes that water patch looks great. You want that water patch and you create it on purpose, but sometimes you may not need it. And when it dries, it looks totally different. So if you don't want to risk seeing something different to what you have planned for your painting, just push it to rest of the areas, or you can also blot it if you don't want to push it and make it look something else. All right, so just a plain wash of orange all over the wings. I'll take some red. Okay. Now, I'm adding a little bit of red in one of the sections. And then adding some more to another section. Now, once that's done, I'll take some orange and spread it. Just like that. Okay, I'll leave rest of the sections as it is. So adding a bit of red to this one. You can choose any of the sections. If you want to add color to 3 sections instead of 2, like I'm doing, you can do that as well. That's fine. And just spreading it across. I have a little bit of water in my brush and I'm just dabbing it. I'm not dragging it, I'm dabbing it. Okay, just like that. Okay, so that finishes the wing. Now I'm taking a bit of lavender. A very, very light, transparent wash of lavender. Apply to the whole body. Lavender or blue. Like I said, if you have blue, that's fine. And we'll let that dry and quickly move on to this one. Okay. There's a small patch of paint that hasn't dried, and I'm going to blot that because the moment I apply color around it, it will bleed into the green. Okay. So a wash of orange for the wings. Okay. I'm going to add the red like I did for this one. Okay, now because my paint is still wet, I may not need to spread it around too much. So I added a bit of red and it was already, you can't see how it's such a small section. You probably can't see how the red was spreading. So I'm just using my brush to ensure a smooth application. I think this part is drier. I'll see if I can show you in this one. Just blotting away some excess paint. All right. Yeah, so this is working better, this part. So I'm doing the same application like I did for this one. Adding red to some sections. And then I'll just spread it across like so. I'll see if I can add a little bit of red here. Yep. And I'll add a little bit here. And just there. Whichever section you think will look nice, you can do that. If you do it for all the sections, I feel it won't create the variation. That's why I'm not applying it to all the sections. But if you have made several sections in the wings of your dragonfly, then you can try apply this effect to some more sections. Okay. I have a little bit of orange here. I think this part is a shade less than the orange that I have on the other part of the wing. So just adding some orange to maintain uniformity. And that's it. We'll do the body with the lavender. This is the easy part, just a wash of lavender. Okay, now this part has dried. What I'll do is I'll take a little bit of red and add it to the tip of the tail, just like that, and a little bit around the thorax. And some here as well, where the mouth is. Now I'll use the same thin brush, I'll get rid of the paint and just spread it. Okay. We'll do the same for this one. Adding some paint here to the tail, a little bit around the tip of its head. And some paint to its thorax. Get rid of the paint. And then spread it. Just like that. It creates a lovely shaded look. All right. Now, usually I let this dry, but because we have a last step left, I'll just quickly blot the excess paint with tissue paper. All right, so that's about it with the paint. Now comes the easy part and the fun part as well. So I'm going to use a Sharpie. I strongly recommend that you use Sharpie if you have one around, because Sharpies are, they don't bleed. They're permanent markers, and they don't bleed into paint. All right, so let's see if this part has dried. Start with the Dragonfly, and I will basically trace the pencil marks. As you apply the Sharpie, you will see all the little variation of color that may have been created in your artwork will slowly start to disappear. Well, they don't exactly disappear, but when you apply a black marker effect to your drawing, it creates so much contrast that you don't quite see it. I'll move the camera a little bit, and one more important thing to be mindful of, when you're applying Sharpie, or for that matter, any permanent marker, you have to ensure that your drawing is completely dry. Everything is dry. Otherwise, that marker won't work. Just let your drawing dry before you apply. And if you're using Sharpie, and once you have finished the drawing, if you feel that, there is this patch I don't like, I should have applied more color to it, or this looks a little bit unrealistic, or I don't like this part, maybe I should have added a little bit of blue or a little bit of red, then you can do that. So let the marker dry as well, the Sharpie, and then you can do, because Sharpies are great, they don't bleed. You can apply a wash of color and it's still going to be fine. Make sure you trace all the pencil marks. Some of the pencil marks, when I'm tracing over, I'm making it a little bit thick, just like here, just like here. That's done on purpose because real stained glass, they are joined by a binder, a gooey, sticky binder, and it may not be uniform everywhere. Okay. Just the last few lines here. Have I covered everything? Yeah, I have. Okay, that completes it. Now I'll quickly take off the tapes and see how it looks like. All right. So that's exactly how it looks like. Can you all see it?